Alice Harris believed in her perfect life. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was real. A life she had built, nurtured, and cherished. At 35, she had a loving husband, 2 adorable children, and a charming house in the suburbs of Austin, Texas. Her home, with its white picket fence, was a testament to their happiness. It was an embodiment of her dreams, a haven filled with laughter, warmth, and love. Alice had poured her heart into creating this picture-perfect life, and she reveled in its every detail. She had met Adrian, her husband, in the halcyon days of college. She was a budding educator, her heart set on shaping young minds. He was a driven law student, his ambition burning bright. Their connection was instant. Their love, a whirlwind romance that culminated in a beautiful wedding and the promise of forever. Life unfolded as they planned. Adrian climbed the corporate ladder, securing a coveted position at a prestigious law firm. Alice, a dedicated elementary school teacher, found joy in nurturing young minds. They were a team, navigating the challenges of parenthood and careers, their bond unbreakable. Alice and Adrian were the envy of their suburban neighborhood. Their life was a tapestry woven with love, laughter, and shared dreams. Adrian, though consumed by his demanding career, always made time for his family. He was the father who read bedtime stories, his voice soothing his children to sleep. He was the husband who surprised Alice with weekend getaways, their laughter echoing across the serene waters of Lake Travis from their small boat. Their evenings were filled with the simple joys of family. Movie nights, board games, and animated conversations filled their living room with warmth. Alice cherished these moments, her heart overflowing with love for her family. Weekends were for creating memories. Trips to the park, family picnics, and visits to the zoo filled their days with laughter and adventure. Alice documented every moment, her camera capturing the essence of their happiness. Life, however, has a way of shifting the ground beneath your feet when you least expect it. The changes in Adrian were subtle at first, almost imperceptible cracks in the foundation of their perfect life. His work consumed him more, his late nights at the office becoming increasingly frequent. The evening walks they once cherished, their hands intertwined, became a thing of the past. Adrian, once a beacon of warmth and affection, grew distant, his mind preoccupied, his smile strained. Alice, ever the optimist, attributed his behavior to the pressures of his demanding job. Corporate law was a jealous mistress, she reasoned, stealing her husband's time and attention. She buried her unease, clinging to the belief that this was just a phase, a temporary blip in their otherwise idyllic life. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been sown. Adrian's phone, once a shared device filled with family photos and mundane messages, became his sanctuary, a source of secrecy that he guarded fiercely. He carried it everywhere, his grip tight, his eyes darting nervously whenever Alice was near. Something was amiss, and Alice couldn't shake the feeling that it boded ill. Alice tried to ignore the whispers of doubt that gnawed at her. She told herself that Adrian's withdrawal was temporary, a byproduct of the relentless pressure he faced at work. She focused on maintaining a semblance of normalcy, for the children's sake if not for her own. She threw herself into her work, finding solace in the innocent enthusiasm of her students. Their laughter and thirst for knowledge were a balm to her troubled soul. At home she created a haven of warmth and love, her every action a testament to her unwavering commitment to her family. She organized family movie nights, carefully selecting films that would transport them to worlds far removed from the growing tension in their own home. She baked cookies, their aroma filling the house with a comforting sweetness, a reminder of happier times. But even as she played the role of the dutiful wife and loving mother, the fear lingered, a dark cloud hovering over her carefully constructed world. The weekend business trips started subtly. At first they were infrequent, a necessary evil, Adrian claimed, to secure a lucrative deal or attend an important conference. Alice, though disappointed, tried to be understanding. After all, Adrian's career was important and she knew sacrifices had to be made. But as the trips became more frequent, her unease grew. Adrian's explanations became vague, his demeanor evasive. He would deflect her questions, his voice tight, his eyes avoiding hers. He was a man living a lie, and the weight of his deception was etched on his face. Alice tried to convince herself that her suspicions were unfounded. She clung to the memories of their early years, the shared dreams, the unwavering love they had for each other. She told herself that this was just a phase, a temporary bump in the road of their long and happy marriage. But deep down, she knew. Something was terribly wrong. The man she loved, the man who had vowed to spend his life with her, was keeping secrets, and the truth, she feared, would shatter her world. Desperate for reassurance, Alice turned to the one person she trusted implicitly, her mother, Claire. Claire had always been her rock, her confidant, the one person who could always make sense of the chaos in her life. Alice hesitated at first, afraid to voice her fears, to shatter the illusion of her perfect life. But the weight of her suspicions became too heavy to bear alone. One evening, as they sipped tea in Alice's cozy kitchen, the words tumbled out, a torrent of fear, confusion and hurt. Alice described Adrian's strange behavior, his growing distance, the suspicious trips, the secrets he seemed to be hiding. Claire listened patiently, her brow furrowed, her eyes filled with concern. She knew her daughter well, knew that beneath her cheerful exterior beat the heart of a sensitive and deeply loving woman. She had always admired Alice's unwavering faith in her marriage, her ability to see the good in everyone. But as Alice spoke, Claire felt a chill run down her spine. She had seen a change in Adrian too, a shift in his demeanor, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. She dismissed it at first, attributing it to the pressures of his job, the weight of responsibility he carried on his shoulders. But now, as she listened to her daughter's fears, a seed of doubt took root in her own mind. Claire's initial instinct was to reassure Alice, to tell her that she was being paranoid, that Adrian loved her and would never betray her trust. But something stopped her. Perhaps it was the look of desperation in her daughter's eyes, the tremor in her voice, the way her hand trembled as she lifted her teacup to her lips. Or perhaps it was the nagging feeling in the pit of Claire's stomach, a premonition that something was terribly wrong. Whatever the reason, Claire chose a different path. She reached across the table, her hand covering Alice's, her touch conveying a depth of understanding that words could not express. "Alice," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm to her daughter's frayed nerves, "I know you don't want to believe this, but I think you need to find out the truth. I know it will be difficult, but you're a strong woman, and you deserve to know what's going on." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. Alice stared at their clasped hands, her mind racing. Claire was right. She couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer, she had to know. And so, with a heart filled with trepidation and a newfound resolve, Alice embarked on a journey that would lead her to a truth more devastating than she could have ever imagined. Alice couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Adrian's behavior had become increasingly erratic, his once warm and loving demeanor replaced by a cold and distant facade. Alice tried to rationalize his behavior, attributing it to the pressures of his demanding job, but deep down, she knew it was more than just work stress. One evening, as Adrian was getting ready for yet another late night at the office, Alice noticed a change in his routine. He was meticulous about his appearance, always ensuring he looked his best, but that night he seemed distracted, almost nervous. As he was buttoning his shirt, his phone vibrated on the nightstand. Alice, her curiosity piqued, casually glanced at the screen. The message was brief, its sender listed simply as C. "Don't be late tonight," it read. "You know I hate waiting." Alice felt a chill run down her spine. Who was C? And why would Adrian be receiving such a message at this hour? A knot of suspicion tightened in her stomach. She knew she should confront him, demand an explanation, but something held her back. Was she afraid of the answer? Or was it something else, a deep-seated fear of shattering the illusion of her perfect life? Days turned into weeks, and the strange messages continued. Alice, unable to contain her growing anxiety, confided in her best friend Sarah. Sarah, a pragmatic and fiercely loyal friend, listened intently as Alice poured out her heart, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and suspicion. Sarah, ever the voice of reason, cautioned Alice against jumping to conclusions. "Maybe it's just a colleague," she suggested, trying to soothe Alice's frayed nerves. "Don't let your imagination run wild." But Alice couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The late-night messages, the secretive phone calls, Adrian's growing distance, it all pointed to something sinister. Determined to uncover the truth, Alice made a decision that would change everything. One evening while Adrian was in the shower, Alice, her heart pounding in her chest, reached for his phone. Her fingers trembled as she entered his password, a mixture of guilt and trepidation washing over her. As the phone unlocked, Alice's worst fears were confirmed. The messages were explicit, leaving no room for doubt. Adrian was having an affair. Alice, her world crashing down around her, felt a surge of anger, betrayal, and a profound sense of loss. How could he do this to her, to their family? The man she had loved, the man she had built a life with, was a stranger, his deception cutting her to the core. As Adrian emerged from the shower, a towel slung low around his hips, Alice confronted him, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. "Who is she?" Alice demanded, her voice barely a whisper. Adrian, caught off guard, froze, his face paling as the realization of what he had done washed over him. He had been so careful, so meticulous in covering his tracks, but somehow, Alice had found out. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, his voice laced with guilt and desperation. "Don't lie to me!" Alice shot back, her voice laced with venom. "I know about the messages, the calls, the lies. Who is she, Adrian?" Adrian, backed into a corner, knew the game was up. He had been living a lie for months, juggling his double life with a skill that surprised even him. But now, the truth was out, and there was no escaping the consequences of his actions. He looked at Alice, his heart sinking as he saw the pain and betrayal in her eyes. He had never meant to hurt her, but somewhere along the way, he had convinced himself that he could have it all, his family, his career, and his secret affair. "Her name is Claire," Adrian confessed, his voice barely audible. Alice stared at him, her mind reeling. Claire, her own mother, it was a betrayal so deep, so unthinkable, that it took her breath away. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, the familiar comfort of her life replaced by a dizzying sense of disorientation. "How could you?" Alice whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "How could you do this to me? To our family? To your own children?" Adrian, desperate to salvage what he could of his shattered life, tried to explain. He spoke of loneliness, of feeling neglected, of seeking solace in the arms of another, but his words rang hollow, his excuses flimsy and self-serving. Alice, her heart shattered into a million pieces, refused to listen. The betrayal cut too deep, the wound too raw. She had dedicated her life to this man, to their family, and he had repaid her devotion with lies, deceit, and the ultimate betrayal. As the weight of his actions crashed down on him, Adrian made a desperate plea for forgiveness. He begged Alice for another chance, promising to end the affair, to seek counseling, to do whatever it took to make things right. But it was too late. The damage was done. Alice, her world shattered, walked away, leaving Adrian standing alone in the wreckage of their broken dreams. She needed time to process the enormity of his betrayal, to figure out how to move forward with her life. But one thing was certain, their marriage, once a symbol of love and commitment, was over. The revelation of Adrian's affair hit Alice with the force of a physical blow. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the sheer audacity of it. Her own husband, the father of her children, was involved with her mother. The woman who was supposed to be her confidant, her protector, had stabbed her in the back. Alice felt a surge of nausea, a wave of dizziness washing over her. She stumbled back, her hand instinctively reaching for the kitchen counter to steady herself. The room spun, the familiar objects blurring at the edges as if she were peering through a kaleidoscope. How could they do this to her? How could they betray her trust so completely, so cruelly? The question swirled in her mind, a chaotic symphony of disbelief and rage. She felt a scream building in her chest, a primal howl of pain and anguish, but the scream died in her throat, choked by the sheer magnitude of her despair. She was drowning in a sea of betrayal, the waves of hurt and anger pulling her under. Section 2, A Mother's Deceit. Alice's mind raced, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. She replayed every interaction with her mother, searching for signs of the deception. Had she been blind? Had she missed the knowing glances? Had she missed the subtle touches? The memories, once cherished, now felt tainted, poisoned by the knowledge of their betrayal. Alice felt a surge of nausea, the taste of bile rising in her throat. The realization was like a physical blow, knocking the air from Alice's lungs. Section 3. The Confrontation. Alice knew she couldn't stay silent. She picked up her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed her mother's number. The phone rang twice before Claire answered, her voice cheerful, oblivious to the storm that was about to erupt. "How dare you ask me that after what you've done?" Alice spat, her voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "Don't play dumb with me," Alice hissed. "I know about you and Adrian." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Section 4. A Web of Lies. The silence stretched on, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension. Finally Claire spoke, her voice a low, soothing murmur that grated on Alice's nerves. "Alice, darling, you're mistaken. There's nothing going on between me and Adrian." "Just what?" Alice interrupted, her voice rising. "Don't insult my intelligence with your lies." Claire sighed, a long, drawn-out sound that seemed to convey a mixture of exasperation and resignation. "Alice, you need to calm down. You're overreacting. Adrian and I were just discussing—" "Discussing what?" Alice demanded. "How to destroy my life? How to tear my family apart?" "It's not like that," Claire insisted, her voice taking on a pleading tone. "We were just trying to protect you." "Protect me?" Alice scoffed. "By betraying me in the worst way imaginable? That's not protection, that's cruelty." Alice's mind raced, trying to make sense of the chaos. How could her mother, the one person she had always trusted implicitly, betray her like this? And how could Adrian, the man who had vowed to love and cherish her, be a part of this deception? "How could you?" Alice whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "How could you do this to me? To our family?" Claire's voice softened, taking on a conspiratorial tone that sent chills down Alice's spine. "Alice, darling, you have to understand it's not what it seems." "Just what?" Alice demanded, her voice rising again. "Don't you dare try to justify this. There's no justification for what you've done." Claire sighed again, her voice taking on a resigned tone. "Alice, I know you're angry and you have every right to be, but you need to listen to me. What we did for you. For me?" Alice scoffed. "How could betraying me possibly be for my benefit?" "Because, darling," Claire said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "Adrian and I, we both love you very much, and we couldn't bear to see you hurt." Alice's mind reeled. Her mother's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. "What are you talking about?" Alice whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and dread. Claire hesitated as if weighing her words carefully. "Adrian and I," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "we were trying to protect you from the truth." "What truth?" Alice pressed, her heart pounding in her chest. "Adrian," Claire said, her voice barely audible. "He's not who you think he is. He's been living a double life." Alice's breath caught in her throat. "What are you saying?" "He has another family, Alice," Claire blurted out. "A wife and children. He's been lying to you all along." Alice felt a wave of nausea wash over her, the room spinning as if she were on a ship caught in a storm. It was too much to process, too much to comprehend. Adrian, her Adrian, with another family? A secret life hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect marriage? How? She choked out, her voice barely a whisper. Claire sighed, a long, weary sound. "He met her years ago, before you even knew him. They fell in love, got married, had children. But then, when he met you, he couldn't choose," Claire finished lamely. "He didn't want to hurt either of you, so he kept them both." Alice hung up the phone, her mind racing. She needed to confront Adrian, to hear him admit the truth with his own lips. She stormed into the living room where he sat reading a book, his face the picture of serenity. "How could you?" she spat, her voice shaking with rage. Adrian looked up, his brow furrowed in confusion. "How could I what?" "Don't play dumb with me," Alice hissed. "I know about her, about them, your other family." The color drained from Adrian's face as the realization dawned on him. His secret was out. "Alice, I can explain," Adrian stammered, rising to his feet. "Explain what?" Alice screamed, her voice echoing through the house. "That you're a liar, a cheat, a monster?" Adrian reached for her, but she flinched away as if his touch burned her. "Alice, please," he pleaded, his voice laced with desperation. "Let me explain. It's not that simple. Not that simple." Alice laughed, a humorless, brittle sound. "You're living a double life, Adrian. You have two families. How can that not be simple?" Adrian ran a hand through his hair, his face etched with despair. "It was a different time," he said, his voice low. "I was young, foolish. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Alice repeated, her voice thick with disgust. "And what about me? What about our children? Were we just another one of your mistakes?" Adrian shook his head vehemently. "No, never," he insisted. "I love you, Alice. I love our children. This changes nothing. It changes everything," Alice whispered, her heart shattering into a million pieces. She turned to leave, but Adrian grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "Alice, please," he begged. "Don't do this. Don't throw away everything we have." Alice struggled against his grip, her fear giving way to a surge of adrenaline. "Let me go!" she cried, twisting and turning in his grasp. But Adrian wouldn't let go. His grip tightened, his face contorted in a mask of rage and desperation. And as Alice continued to struggle, a terrifying thought took root in her mind. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The tranquility of the quiet suburban street was shattered by the piercing wail of sirens. Red and blue lights danced across the manicured lawns, casting an eerie glow on the houses that stood as silent witnesses to the tragedy that had unfolded within one of their own. Neighbors, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and concern, peered from behind drawn curtains, whispering amongst themselves as police cars descended upon the Harris residence. Detective Jessica Miller, her expression grim, surveyed the scene with a practiced eye. The house, once a symbol of suburban bliss, now felt cold and lifeless, its windows dark, its door ajar. A yellow police tape, fluttering gently in the breeze, cordoned off the property, a stark reminder that something was terribly wrong. As she stepped inside, the air hung heavy with a silence that was more unnerving than any scream. The house was immaculate, its furniture perfectly arranged, its surfaces free of clutter. It was the home of a family that valued order, that took pride in their surroundings. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, Detective Miller sensed an undercurrent of something darker, a secret that clung to the walls like a malevolent spirit. She made her way through the house, her eyes scanning every detail, her mind working overtime to piece together the puzzle of what had transpired within those walls. The living room, with its plush sofas and family portraits, offered no clues, its normalcy at odds with the gravity of the situation. The investigation into Alice Harris's death was a meticulous process, a slow and deliberate unraveling of the truth that lay buried beneath layers of secrets and lies. Detective Miller, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for her tenacity and sharp instincts, approached the case with a methodical precision that belied the emotional turmoil that churned within her. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every whispered rumor was carefully examined, scrutinized, and catalogued. She interviewed friends, neighbors, colleagues, and family members, her sharp eyes searching for any flicker of deception, any inconsistency that could lead her to the truth. The evidence, as it unfolded, painted a grim picture. Alice's phone records revealed a series of frantic calls and messages in the hours leading up to her death, most of them to her mother and her best friend. Her internet search history revealed a desperate search for answers, for confirmation of the suspicions that had been gnawing at her soul. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place, but a crucial element was missing: a motive. Section 3. A community in shock. The news of Alice Harris's death spread through the community like wildfire, leaving shock and disbelief in its wake. Neighbors, their faces etched with a mixture of grief and horror, gathered in small groups, whispering amongst themselves as they struggled to comprehend the tragedy that had befallen their quiet enclave. Alice, with her warm smile and infectious laughter, had been a beloved figure in the neighborhood, a woman who always had time for a friendly chat, a helping hand, a kind word. Her death, so sudden, so violent, so senseless, was a stark reminder that even in the most idyllic of settings, darkness could lurk just beneath the surface. The Harris children, their innocence shattered by the tragedy, were being cared for by Alice's sister, her eyes red-rimmed with grief, her voice choked with emotion as she tried to shield them from the harsh realities of the situation. The community rallied around them, offering support and condolences, their hearts breaking for the children who had lost their mother in such a horrific manner. Section 1. The Price of Justice. The trial of Adrian Harris was a somber affair, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences of unchecked deceit. The courtroom, usually a stage for legal maneuvering and rhetorical flourishes, was heavy with the weight of the tragedy that had brought them together. Alice's family and friends, their faces etched with grief and a quiet dignity, filled one side of the gallery, their presence a silent testament to the depth of their loss. Adrian, his face pale and drawn, sat at the defense table, his eyes downcast, his demeanor a study in remorse and resignation. The evidence against Adrian was overwhelming, a damning indictment of his actions. The prosecution, their case meticulously constructed by Detective Miller's tireless efforts, presented a compelling narrative of a man driven by selfishness and a desperate need to protect his carefully constructed double life. Section 2. The Unanswered Questions. Adrian Harris was sentenced to 55 years in prison, a sentence that would ensure he would spend the rest of his days behind bars, haunted by the consequences of his actions. Justice, it seemed, had been served. But for Alice's family and friends, the wounds cut deep, the scars of his betrayal a constant reminder of their loss. Their grief was a living thing, a heavy cloak that they carried with them always. The questions lingered, unanswered and unanswerable. Why had Adrian done it? How could he have lived a lie for so long, his heart seemingly untouched by the pain he was inflicting on those who loved him most? The tragedy had cast a long shadow over their lives, a darkness that threatened to consume them.